The President has appointed Phineas Mojapelo to lead the three-member independent panel to look into the circumstances surrounding the docking of a Russian vessel in the Western Cape last year. Mojapelo will be joined by Advocate Leah Kabashe, Senior Counsel, and Enver Surti as the other members of the panel. This follows allegations by the U.S. ambassador to South Africa that this country sold arms to Russia and they were loaded on the Lady R when it docked in Simonstown in December. According to the presidency, the panel will look into who was aware of the cargo ship's arrival, what was offloaded or loaded on the ship, and its destination. The panel has been given 6 weeks to conclude their investigations and will present the findings of the report to the President.
The President decided to establish the inquiry because of the seriousness of the allegations, the extent of public interest, and the impact on South Africa's international relations. The panel will complete its investigation within 6 weeks of its appointment and will be expected to deliver its report to the President within 2 weeks. The panel may request an extension to these timeframes should it be necessary.
Right, our reporter Erin Bates joins us now live from the naval base where this ship docked in Simonstown. Erin, tell us more about the panelists and their task at hand.
Yes, well, Clement, importantly, we've just had confirmation from the presidency that the appointment date for the three-person panel was the 25th of May. So work out your 6 weeks plus 2 weeks to finalize the report from then. And bear in mind the caveat that if this panel needs more time, it may be granted. The panel has been appointed to report directly to President Cyril Ramaphosa. It includes that retired judge, Phineas Mojapelo, also senior counsel Leah Kabashe, well known for her work on the Zondo Commission, and then Enver Surti, an ANC MP and former minister of Yore. He has a background in legal matters as well and practiced as a lawyer from the late 1970s into the early 1990s before a move into politics. Those are the minds who are going to apply themselves to what are the facts of the Lady R's docking here in Simonstown Seas in December of last year. We've already got some input from some analysts with their views on the panel and its task at hand. Let's take a listen to some view on that.
To investigate a port of call at a naval base. And the bigger picture that people are not discussing about is the strategic importance of the Simonstown naval base. We know that different powerhouses around the world are quite keen to have an access to that power, to that naval base. Setting up this and looking at the terms of reference that are starting to emerge now, at least from the statement issued out by the presidency, it includes the reason for the port of call. Now, one would have expected that the port of call reasons were part of the clearance that was given to this naval ship. But I think we are boxing ourselves to be accountable to foreign governments in terms of what's going on. No doubt, if arms were shipped without the knowledge of government, there's a domestic law that has been broken. And that should have been managed totally different from the glare and the scrutiny of the global communities.
Well, Erin, speaking to Cobus Mare earlier, we were looking at who should be approached by this panel to get more information about the circumstances of the docking of Lady R. There are so many questionable things that have happened here, from this ship turning off its AIS system, not communicating with the South African ports, to, of course, that dawn loading or offloading of whatever we will find out from this panel if it's able to establish that. So there are some key people that will need to be approached by the panel for some answers.
Certainly, if they haven't already been approached. We had a report from Sam Kokeli, who had word with two seniors very close to the presidency, who said that a private South African company had been identified as a potential seller of arms in a private sale. Details there are still murky, and where the Lady R, this Russian commercial vessel, fits into that story has yet to be determined. But of course, there are all sorts of structures already in place, including within our very Navy. Now, Now, there are locals here in Simonstown who saw that unmissable Russian vessel over those few days in December of last year. And in fact, there's even been some footage of little pallets. Little perhaps being important there. I mean, it's all relative, right? A pallet might be as big as myself. But in terms of military gear, hardware, arms, ammunition, whatever that sale may have been, if indeed it did take place, and how it got onto the vessel. This is an issue that opposition parties, the DA notably, have been hamming up and driving home, including in that Q&A with President Cyril Ramaphosa the week that Reuben Bridgety made those allegations very publicly. There's been emphasis, including from Special Envoy Dr. Sidney Mufamadi, about obtaining hard facts and evidence from U.S. authorities. But let's just reflect on what Murray said earlier.
The responsibility of the Chief of the Navy. Yes, at that stage it was a new Chief of the Navy, but he is still responsible and in charge of the naval base. He's also stationed in Simonstown. So he will be the first person. Then secondly, obviously because he falls under the Chief of the SANDF, the Chief of the SANDF, the Minister of Defense, but then also, remember, AB Logistics is a logistical company belonging to Arms Corps. So obviously they will have to look at least the CEO of Arms Corps to come clean with all the information that they have possessed, because they have arranged the trucks. So they would be able to tell us who has approved this, why was it bypassed, and then obviously, any other person involved in those transactions and where the cargo was offloaded.
Clement, I said hamming up earlier. I should have said drumming up, and the drums are not dying down when it comes to questions around Lady R and its movements from further afield, further into the seas here in Simonstown and beyond. Important also to note that when it comes to this entire matter, the diplomatic repercussions of what's been going on here as South Africa negotiates its bystander status and attitude toward the Russia-Ukraine conflict, a very important issue. And now the panel must get to work. It must look at these facts. With that May confirmation for appointment from Vincent Magwenya to just minutes ago, you can now do the maths. That moves us into early, at the earliest, to get any financial report.
All right, Erin Bates, live to us from Simonstown. Thank you.